Hey guys, this is Keya, and in today's video we'll be taking a look at the similarities and differences between American and British English. As I'm sure we all know, what's now the United States of America was colonized by Europeans in the late 1400s. It eventually became a colony of Britain in the late 16th and early 17th centuries, which was around about the time that the English language was introduced there. English also spread to other parts of the world through British colonization, trade, and imperialism. On the whole, the forms of English used in the US and the forms of English used in the UK aren't actually that different, with the main differences being grammar, vocabulary, spelling, pronunciation, punctuation, idioms, and formatting of dates and numbers. These differences became officially formalized in 1828, when Noah Webster wrote and published the first American dictionary, with the intention of demonstrating that Americans spoke a different dialect from the British, although they essentially still spoke the same language. Additionally, Webster allegedly did this to show cultural independence from Britain, its mother country. Regarding spoken English, the divergence between American and British English occurred once the first British settlers arrived in America. These people, who are referred to as Americans, spoke using rhotic speech, which means they spoke in a way in which the R sounds of words were pronounced. They spoke this way even before they settled in America. However, back in the UK, the upper classes of British society wanted to be distinct from the common masses, as a way of emphasizing their superiority over the poor majority. Therefore, they spoke with a softened pronunciation of the R sound. Over time, people began to copy the elite minority's way of speaking until it became the common way of speaking in the south of England, leading to what we currently know as the British accent. Now, let's take a look at some of the main differences between American and British English. Spelling. Here are some common spelling differences of English words between American and British English. The most common example would be words like honor, color, behavior, and favorite. Americans spell those words with one O, whereas the British spell those words with an OU. Now let's take a look at vocabulary. Below you can see that certain everyday objects have different names, depending on whether you're using American or British English. The green words are what we use in South African English to describe those everyday objects, obviously used in South Africa, which is where I'm from. The purple words indicate that in South African English, we don't use either of those words to describe those objects. A sweater or a jumper is known as a jersey here, and instead of saying drugstore or chemist, we use the word pharmacy. There are tons of other examples to show these differences, but these are sufficient to show that South African English is a fair mixture of British and American English. Grammar. There are also various grammar differences between British and American English. The British are obviously very formal in their way of speaking, using shall, while Americans, who speak a lot more informally, would rather use will or should instead. Americans also still use gotten as the past participle of get, which the British don't do anymore. Instead, they use got. In British English, needn't is also very common, whereas in American English it's hardly ever used. Don't need to is used instead. These examples are illustrated here. Ultimately though, there are clearly differences between the two forms of English spoken in these two nations. However, it's safe to say that they're still essentially the same language, even if Noah Webster wanted differently. Although, which form of the language is better is a debate which will probably never be solved. Thanks for watching!